Emily saw it, you know. You were at a restaurant bar planning a trip with another woman." "Oh, I see. And? So what?" Even when caught cheating, my husband Donald wouldn't drop his defiant attitude. In a moment, what we had built over 15 years crumbled away. In this day and age, I was a full-time homemaker and we were living with his parents just like every other year. I had given up the job I loved at a publishing company where I felt fulfilled, and now I spend half of the week accompanying my parents to the hospital and adjusting meals according to everyone's schedule. I was living a life much like a housemaid after getting married. I had no time for myself. The only place I could relax was in our bedroom, even in this spacious house. Despite all this, I had chosen this life because I wanted to be with my husband. The option of leaving never crossed my mind, so when my adulterous husband said, "We can get a divorce, you know," I was at a loss for words, feeling more amazed than angry. This is the story of me, Sophie Johnson, turning 40 this year and leaving my husband, Donald, with whom I lived for 15 years, and starting my life from scratch. It all started 2 months ago, on the 25th. That day was payday for him, who worked at an electronics manufacturer. Usually, his salary would be deposited into our joint account. I would use that money to pay our monthly bills and give him an allowance in the evening. However, 2 months ago, his salary wasn't deposited into our joint account. I thought there must have been some technical glitch, so when he got home in the evening, I asked him about it. "What do you mean you changed the deposit account?" Without saying anything to me, he had switched the account to his personal one. "But what about our payments? These bills are due on the 27th. I couldn't keep up with the sudden change and just thought of immediate concern without thinking. "Just let me know how much you need and I'll transfer that amount into the joint account." He said so, and taking off his suit with his back turned to me. He wouldn't even look me in the eyes. "So why did you change it?" I couldn't think of any reason. In the 15 years we'd been together, we had never changed the account. We were saving in our joint account, so it wouldn't be a problem if his transfer was late. It's not that our bills would fall behind, so maybe I didn't need to press the issue, but I couldn't help wondering, why didn't he trust me with our finances? Did I do something wrong? I didn't remember overspending, but I thought maybe I had unknowingly upset him. If so, I needed to apologize. That's what I thought when I asked him, but it seems like he thought I was blaming him. He threw his freshly removed shirt onto the couch and glared at me. "It's my hard-earned money, isn't it?" "Yes, it is, but..." "Why do I need your permission to use it?" What? I couldn't understand any of his words. I'd been giving him $500 allowance every month, but that was just a temporary arrangement. If his expenses piled up, I would give him more. I asked him what he spent his money on, but I'd never refused to give him more when he needed. As a stay-at-home wife, there have been times when I asked if I could buy something I wanted, but the reverse never happened. "I don't need dinner today." "What?" "But I already prepared." "Never mind. I'll eat out." He got bent out of shape, grabbed his car keys, and went out again. He seemed strange. For the past 15 years, we've never had issues over money. But suddenly he starts saying it's his money. While cleaning up the food I had prepared, I was upset at my husband's selfish actions. I was frustrated that despite having food at home, he chose to eat out anyway, because now he was in charge of the finances. From that moment, he began eating out every night and coming home late at night after I fell asleep. Also, the number of days he told me he was staying at work overnight increased. The fight had completely escalated. Even when we were together, we didn't talk more than necessary. As time passed, it was hard to find a chance to make up, and I started blaming myself. We'd never had a fight last this long before. It was a minor issue that he changed the bank account without consulting me. If he wants to manage the finances, that's fine. After about 2 weeks of awkwardness, I began to reconsider like that. Then one day, I received a message from Emily, who was my colleague when I worked as a publisher. "Hey, how are you doing? How about lunch soon?" We used to go out for drinks after work and spend our days off together when we were single. We both have families now, so we don't contact each other as much, but we try to meet at least once or twice a year. Her invitation came at a good time. I agreed readily. So 2 days later in the afternoon, she and I were sitting in a cafe in the next town. "So they moved into the care facility, huh?" "Yeah, both of them, in the same place." She asked how things were going, and I told her about what happened a few months ago. It was about my parents-in-law moving into a nursing home. "I know I shouldn't say this, but it's a good thing. It must be a relief for you." She looked pleased. She had been worried about me because I never had time for myself, so it seemed she was relieved now. "Well, I do have to get their clothes, visit and accompany them to their doctor's appointments, but still, my life has become a lot easier. This was the first time since I was single that I was able to casually make time to meet with a friend. You're such a dutiful daughter-in-law. Is Donald still hands-off?" "Yes, he seems to want to do nothing on his days off." He never wanted to go anywhere on his days off. "In these 15 years, we've never even gone shopping together. Her husband is diligent. He picks her up in his car when it rains and sometimes even does the shopping for her. He never changed at all. Well, since I am a stay-at-home wife. But at least he could take care of his own parents. She has never thought highly of my husband. We both had a job when we got married, but he never helped with the household chores. There were days when I was too tired to do housework. He found it unbelievable and suggested I become a stay-at-home wife. I didn't want to quit, but I resigned as he suggested. Becoming a full-time homemaker, I was soon asked to live with his parents, and I ended up taking care of them. The reason I couldn't talk back to my husband was because of the significant difference in our incomes. He is 8 years older than me. By that time, he already held a position at his company, and his income was more than double mine. "Can you earn as much as I do? If you can, I wouldn't mind quitting." He'd say it like that and made me speechless. I discussed my true desires of not wanting to quit my job with her. I even cried on the phone, overwhelmed by having no time for myself, and I understand if she holds a negative view of him, it's because of my venting. After a while, the ordered warm vegetable salad arrived. She, serving it on smaller plates, opened her mouth again. "So, how are things with him?" Upon being asked, I thought for a while and nodded affirmatively. I'd actually come to discuss that we'd had a big fight, but I didn't want him to be seen in a worse light. Emily paused with holding the serving tongs and stared at me, who only managed to nod in response. Keeping my smile to not arouse suspicion, she stopped serving the salad midway. "I'm sorry, I asked it in a wrong way. Sophie, things aren't going well with him, are they?" She spoke as if she knew something. As I was left flustered and unable to respond, she started talking about something that had happened a few days ago. That day, she was apparently at a dining bar near her office for a work after-party, and when she went to use the restroom, she passed a man in the aisle who turned out to be my husband. He didn't seem to recognize her, so she decided against calling out to him, but noticing that he was in casual clothes made her wonder if he was with me. After leaving the restroom, she decided to take a look at where he was seated, but what she saw was him having drinks with a woman who wasn't me. Then I realized that instantly. He's cheating on you. They were sitting close together, bodies touching as they drank. Was that really my husband? I couldn't believe it. That's because on that day he hadn't come home due to working overtime, so there was no reason for him to be in casual clothes. Moreover, he seemed genuinely busy lately. Does he even have the time for cheating in his current state? Although we've been on bad terms recently, I can't imagine him resorting to cheating. I just don't see him as that kind of person. Sensing my thoughts, she sighed and added, "For the upcoming long weekend, he mentioned going to a place in Malibu. He was showing information about the accommodations on his phone, mentioned something about a prime-grade steak dinner. You could probably find the hotel if you search from there." She started searching for the hotel on her phone, but while at the cafe, I was still hoping that it was just her misunderstanding. However, as soon as I got home, I started looking through his clothes. I don't remember how many clothes he has, so I wouldn't know how many of what item were missing. But I did notice that 2 or 3 of his favorite clothes were missing. Until last year, he would immediately wear it after washing it, and it was always at the front of the drawer when opened. But now it's nowhere to be found, even after searching every corner, the back of the closet, and the drawers of rarely used cabinets, literally everywhere. The only thing that comes to mind is him, who had been working overtime and even working on weekends due to his busy schedule. The look on his face as he told me he had spent a night in the company's restroom because he missed the last train. As I stood in front of the closet, the sound of an incoming email came from my pocket. It was a message from Emily. The email included the URL of a hotel in Malibu. As I stood there in a daze, I slowly pressed the link, and a stay plan with a dinner including prime-grade meat was displayed. I felt dizzy. I felt like I had a bad dream. There was a part of me that still wanted to believe in him, but I couldn't find his favorite shirt. That was a huge blow. 2 days later, the Saturday before a long weekend, he was unusually at home. He was working with the TV on. I placed a cup of coffee near his computer and casually asked, I haven't seen you wearing your favorite t-shirt this year," even though he hadn't taken his eyes off the display when I put down his drink. But at this question, the sound of him typing on the keyboard suddenly stopped. Then he said, "Yeah, I'll wear it sometime," making a point of looking at me as he responded. That was unusual. For the past month since that payday, he had been distant. But now, when asked about his shirt, he was making eye contact. I looked for it, but I couldn't find it, I couldn't judge anything from this reaction. That's why I added this, and he replied, "Isn't it somewhere?" and then looked away, returning to his computer. Seeing his reaction, I couldn't help but feel suspicious. Despite saying his favorite shirt was missing, he showed no signs of being troubled. Normally in this kind of situation, he would pretend to be troubled just to make a point that I hadn't taken care of it properly, even if he really didn't need something. Last year, he kept complaining just because it hadn't dried due to the rain. Every bit of change makes everything seem suspicious. When it comes to this, I can't control myself. I can't help but keep going until I get clear answers, often going too far. "You're off for a long weekend, right?" Even though we hadn't made up after our last fight, I couldn't help but ask something more intrusive. "Work." "From when?" "I don't know. There's a business trip. I might have a day off." Was this also a lie? I could only think it was a lie. After all, the past 15 years, he always took time off during the holidays. Emily's words crossed my mind. Going to Malibu, as she said. Mentioned the prime-grade steak, of course, as she also said. The story I heard at the cafe starts to feel real, and I feel a surge of anger welling up within me before I realize it, and I've said it out loud. "Business trip? You mean you're going to Malibu?" Uttering a word that I hadn't asked about, he who had been located froze while staring at the screen. He slowly turned around, but his expression had changed from earlier. With a weary face, he squinted and glared at me. It was the exact same look he had during our fight on that payday. "What the hell is going on, really? Rummaging around our room pretending to look for clothes?" He sighed heavily. Hearing his words, my lips quivered noticeably. Indeed, I had rummaged through the room, but I found nothing. I couldn't find it, the t-shirt, yet despite that, he said it. Rummaged through his room. He said so. Which means if I had rummaged more, I would have found something that links to Malibu. I still wanted to believe, even while doubting. Emily said she saw it. At the wine bar, you and another woman were planning a trip. The things we had built started to crumble away. "Oh, is that so?" I thought at times like this he would hurriedly make an excuse, but reality was different. He was not flustered at all. He turned away with a defiant look. So, what's the point? I was even questioned in return. What does he want to hear? When I became speechless out of disbelief, he piled on words. Who do you think you are? I'm working hard to earn money, enough for a stay-at-home wife to live comfortably. He yelled at me loudly, and my head started to ache. As I placed a hand on my forehead and took a deep breath, I'm okay with getting a divorce, you know. He uttered those few words. For the past 15 years, no matter what happened, no matter how hard it was, I had tried not to think about it. I was disappointed that he could say it with no hesitation. From that day, he continued to ignore me. Even worse, the moment he found out I knew it, he boldly started communicating right in front of me like, all right, I'll pick you up at 7 in the morning. The first time it happened, I was dumbfounded. Was he always like this? The person in front of me was a total stranger. As it was, we entered the long weekend and the day of his trip. I was in the car driven by Emily and silently watching him commit infidelity. Sophie, did you get a shot of him putting his arm around her waist just now? Yeah. You should take as many photos as you can. Okay. When I told her about my conversation with him on Saturday, she was furious and told me I should break up with such a stupid man. She also suggested that I take photos as proof of his cheating and claim for emotional damages. She spent her much-anticipated weekend for this very purpose. The woman he was cheating with was around late 20s or early 30s, slim figure, wearing revealing clothes. Does he have a thing for her long hair? He stroked her hair over and over with a gentle smile on his face. Since he left the house, I also left promptly and watched everything from when he picked her up from her apartment, even when he stopped by a convenience store to buy breakfast together, even when they started walking arm in arm in front of the Monterey Bay Aquarium, and now they just entered a hotel together. I took pictures of all of it with my phone, but each time I pressed the shutter, I pondered over what I was doing. I knew it, but seeing it with my own eyes made me really sad. But I didn't shed a tear. I just stared at his joyful face. That was my day. What do we do now? Shall we stay somewhere for the night? No, let's head back. It seemed she was planning to stay overnight, but I shook my head. I don't want to waste money I've saved by scrimping on such a thing. I thought our life as a couple had finally started after my in-laws had been placed in a nursing home. We hadn't been able to go on trips until now because we always took care of our parents first, but from now on, we wanted to create memories as a couple. The money I had planned to use for those times. I wonder if I just wasted 15 years. If I knew it would turn out like this, I wouldn't have married. If I knew I would go through this, I would have divorced him a long time ago. I shouldn't have had to endure and try so hard. Today, seeing his smile for the first time in a while, I wanted to redo those 15 years. Though I wanted to cry, I couldn't and just kept sighing. And she had been quietly listening, but suddenly started the car engine and checked the time. What time is it now? After 3 o'clock? Then she called somewhere and smiled at me. Hey, Sophie, let's move out right now. Eh? Hello, sorry to bother you during the long weekend. I appreciate your help. I was taken aback by her sudden proposal. She was about to start something. I was so in a panic and I shook my head at her while she was on the phone, but she ignored me and went on saying, "It's all good." From that moment, Emily was very energetic. While driving, she called various places on her car's navigation system and gathered people to come to my house. Then, about 3 hours later, we actually had gotten home in the evening about 2 hours after, but in just 1 hour, all my belongings in the house were packed into cardboard boxes. It was literally unbelievable. I didn't want to talk about work since you didn't want to quit, Sophie, but I've transferred from a fashion magazine and now am the editor-in-chief of a local magazine. In the car, she made various calls to the moving company and real estate agency she deals with, and also to a lawyer who knows Donald. She had expertly adjusted the schedule so that the service people's visiting times did not clash. I also moved according to her instructions, minute by minute. I packed only my valuables into a box, and the rest were done by the movers while I was introduced to a house that could be moved into within a few days by the real estate agent. For the time being, the belongings were sent to her house. I ended up having to stay with her for a few days. After the truck packed with my things left, I was visited by a lawyer. They gave me advice about things such as claiming alimony after divorce, guiding me towards a method that would be the least burdensome as possible. I was amazed at how much could be done in just a few hours. I knew she was a very active person from when we used to work together, but her ability struck me as incredible. However, looking around the room that was now half empty, anxiety slowly began to creep in. He's definitely going to be mad. The cost of moving was surprisingly low. The studio apartment was affordable, and even the consultation with the lawyer was free, yet it was still costing money. I made these moves without consulting with him. I'm sure he'll be furious when he gets back from his trip. As I felt our relationship deteriorating rapidly, I became depressed. Then she slapped my back. Hey, being a homemaker is a respectable job too. The money you've saved from being frugal is also yours. Plus, it's his fault. He said he'd transfer the necessary money, right? So let's have him pay, even for the cost of living on your own. After being strongly persuaded by her, I took one last look around the house. I remembered how, in the early days, I had found it difficult to rearrange things. Now, I just realized I did put my toner on the bathroom vanity with no hesitation. The shoe rack was filled with my shoes. I had always seen myself as a maid, but maybe I had actually become part of the family. After imprinting the image of the home I had lived in for 15 years in my mind, I made up my mind and nodded vigorously at her. And then, on the last day of the long weekend, I left the house I had shared with him. I was still staying at Emily's place. "Where are you at?" I picked up the call from him with a trembling hand, and I was asked that with a grumpy voice. Without answering his question, I said the words Emily and I had decided on beforehand. "You said you were okay with the divorce, right? And that you would transfer the necessary money. I am divorcing you. Please, provide for the cost of me living alone." "What? Stop talking nonsense and come back." He seemed to think this was just a runaway. I cut off his voice and spoke my final words. "Please, have your new partner to take care of your parents from now on. Thank you for 15 years. While he was still talking, I hung up. He called back several times, but I didn't pick it up. I did feel guilty about how I ended things unilaterally like this, but looking back, I had always accepted his unilateral demands ever since we got married. So I tried to think it is fine, at least in the last moment. The following year was a whirlwind. I negotiated with him through a lawyer and was finally able to divorce with alimony and living expenses assured. I had no peace of mind until I found a job, but I've been working as an office clerk at a local factory and slowly buying what I need with my monthly salary. Then, "Sophie, can you make the deadline this month?" "Yeah, I'll make it, but I think I'm going to barely make it by the deadline, so I don't have time to chat on the phone." All right, I'll go now. You have your piece this month, too." 6 months ago, Emily, who manages our local magazine, added a new section about saving money, and as a frugal person, I've been given a chance to write a couple of pages there every month. I gave up on my dream to work in a publishing company. Her arrangements mean a lot to me. Now, I'm a writer, but I have 15 years of experience in budgeting as a homemaker, and I want to share my experiences wholeheartedly. I was able to make a fresh start, but then an unexpected call came in. "It's good to hear your voice. Sounds well." Mother-in-law. My mother-in-law called me from her nursing home. I had said my goodbyes to her before my divorce, but in that time I couldn't talk with her well. I hadn't contacted her since the last time, so I was surprised that she called. After talking about my father-in-law's advanced dementia, she updated me on my ex-husband's situation. "What? He broke up?" "Yes, that's the case. He's foolish, isn't he? Between us, he was dumped before the divorce finalized." "I see. Seems like his relationship with that woman has already ended." "Well, that's expected, isn't it? Any young girl would run if she had to deal with taking care of seniors. So who is at the home now? Donald. He ended up leaving his big corporate job, but he's trying with his complaints. He's such a fool. He was able to work because of his wife supporting him behind. He still doesn't talk about his own infidelity. Sophie, breaking up with him was the right thing to do. My ex-husband hasn't changed, but it seems like he's struggling a bit. I found myself a bit relieved by hearing that. My usual stern mother-in-law chuckled and said, "Sophie, thank you. I was planning to ask you to try again with him when I called, but your voice sounds so lively, so I decided not to ask. In the roughly 15 years we lived together, I'd never had such a long conversation like this with my mother-in-law. Our relationship wasn't bad, but it wasn't good either." I listened to her voice. I assumed this would be the last time I'd hear from her, and I savored every word. It turned out for the best, she said so sadly, and my tears welled up. It's been a year since my divorce. Everything has been going well, and I've managed to make a fresh start. However, I've always felt a lingering sense of regret. It's because I felt that I had wasted 15 years of my life. But then with this phone call, my mother-in-law said it. Thank you, and that she had planned to ask me to try again with her son. There's no chance of getting back together with my ex-husband, but hearing that from his mother made me genuinely happy. It felt like a validation of what I had done for those 15 years. I will never forget this phone call from her. Those 15 years were not wasted, because now I believe that so.
Your old woman is going to a nursing home because I'm moving in with Catherine. If you don't like it, we can divorce. Catherine looks at me with a malicious grin. Good manners are important, even among close friends, but some people just can't manage that. I don't want to live with someone who can't even maintain basic manners with their spouse or family, especially if it makes people uncomfortable. And it's even worse when that person is rude to my dear mom. But I have my own thoughts on this. I want to cut ties with my husband and Catherine, who have neglected my mom. My name is Elisa, a 32-year-old working wife. I live in my childhood home with my husband Daryl and my mom. We moved back in with Mom 2 years ago when my dad passed away, leaving her alone. My parents were very close and did everything together. After Dad's accident, Mom became with John. At that time, Daryl had been laid off and we were struggling financially. Concerned for Mom, we suggested moving in together. Daryl seemed a bit reluctant but couldn't argue since he was jobless. He agreed to my request. I have a professional license and a responsible job, so my days are hectic. During the week, Mom takes care of the housework and I help out on weekends. Daryl doesn't seem to want to do any chores. He's been job hunting and is on edge, so neither Mom nor I say anything. It took Daryl 6 months after moving in to finally find a job, but he keeps making excuses for not doing housework, like being stressed from his new job or being tired from overtime. Men aren't good at detailed tasks, Mom says with a smile, hiding her dissatisfaction. But I'm getting more and more frustrated. Hey, I work longer hours than you and even work on weekends. Why won't you help with the chores? When I say this, Daryl grimaces and retorts, "The right person in the right place, you know? I'm just not good at housework." That makes me dig in my heels. I wasn't good at it first either, but I made an effort to improve. You don't even seem willing to try. The situation is different now. You learned housework when you had time. I am busy now. I can't be bothered with that. Daryl says this and goes to sleep, avoiding further discussion. Lately, Mom's knees have been bothering her. I want us all to share the housework, but Daryl has no intention of helping from the get-go. As time goes on, it becomes the norm for Daryl not to do any housework. But recently, another issue has come up. On weekends, Daryl frequently invites his sister Catherine to our home. Catherine is 5 years older than me, but she doesn't act like a mature adult with common sense. I don't particularly like her because she has poor manners. She walks into our house and doesn't even take off her hat. When she finally does, she just plops it on the table. And instead of greeting Mom, who owns the house, she rudely asks, "Old woman, got any Coke?" We don't have Coke. Mom replies, visibly puzzled. Catherine then acts as if she's talking to her own parents. "What? Well, you should go buy some. It's bad manners not to offer anything to guests." Please buy your own. You can't prepare for unexpected guests, I say, and she finally quiets down. But then she goes on to open the doors to other rooms and even helps herself to dessert from the fridge. I've warned Catherine multiple times, but she doesn't change her behavior. Complaining to Daryl is pointless. Look, when Catherine comes over, neither Mom nor I can relax. It's fine if she visits you occasionally, but every week is too much. If you're both free, why don't you go out somewhere instead of coming here? You're neglecting my family? I'm living with your mother, Dina, because I have to. You should be grateful and have no complaints. That's a separate issue. It's not separate. I'm allowing Dina to live with us, so you should accept Catherine coming over. I wish you wouldn't equate Mom with Catherine. Mom is quiet and unassuming, while Daryl is the one who treats her poorly. On the other hand, Catherine is rude to both Mom and me, causing us a lot of trouble. But saying this leads to an argument with Daryl, who doesn't get it. Daryl used to be a quiet, reserved person after we got married, but he seems to have changed since losing his previous job. He said he was laid off due to poor performance and looked very regretful. I don't really want to be hard on him considering that, but I still expect him to maintain basic manners. But the issue with Catherine visiting every week was just the tip of the iceberg. One day, Catherine arrived at our house carrying a large bag. "Get ready for me," she announced, leaving both Mom and me stunned. Daryl was the only one who warmly welcomed her, saying, "Catherine, good to see you, welcome. This is your home from today. We do have a vacant room that used to be Dad's study, but I don't want Catherine using it." "Wait, what's going on?" I ask. Daryl turns to me with an annoyed look. "What's going on is that Catherine is moving in here from today." "Why, neither my Mom nor I were informed." "Stop nagging. I've decided that Catherine is moving in. If you have a problem with that, your old woman is going to a nursing home. If you don't like it, we can divorce." Daryl shouts this, and behind him, Catherine smirks maliciously. I'm so shocked that my body stiffens and I can't even respond. I'm also furious that he called my mom an old woman. Then Daryl starts dictating again. "Dina, Catherine will be using your room, so you'll have to move to the study." "What?" As Mom looks stunned, Daryl and Catherine head upstairs. Mom and I follow them only to find them entering Mom's room and trying to move her furniture out. I've had enough. I yell at them. "Fine, let's get divorced. Now please leave." "What? Are you serious?" Daryl looks down at me and laughs. I nod without hesitation. "I am. I've been putting up with you and Catherine for too long. Living with Catherine is out of the question. If you say it's divorce if I don't like it, then I welcome it. I'll take care of my mom." "You're going to throw away your life for an old woman with limited years left? You don't get it. Spending the rest of my life with you would be the real waste. You are the one who brought up divorce, so follow through." "Fine. Until I find a new place, Catherine will stay in my room. Why don't you move over to your beloved Dina's room?" "I was planning to do that anyway. Don't regret divorcing me later." "I've been stressed out, always prioritizing your old woman. No way I'll regret it." Both Daryl and Catherine look down on me and laugh. They're probably counting on getting a good share in the property division during the divorce. I quickly pack my things and move to Mom's room. I've been uncomfortable sharing a room with Daryl for so long, and now I can finally sleep in peace. Mom worries about me, saying, "Is divorce really okay? You'll be alone from now on." But I'd rather be alone than with someone I dislike. "It's fine, Mom. Don't worry about it. I care more about you than that man. Don't try to stop the divorce." When I say this seriously, Mom nods, looking downcast. She probably thinks it's her fault, but she's done nothing wrong. Once the divorce is finalized, I plan to take Mom on a vacation for a change of scenery. I want to make sure she can live happily from now on. The divorce went smoothly. The property was divided and Catherine moved out about a week after she moved in. You could say it was the worst week ever. Catherine had been using the kitchen freely, wasting ingredients, and her cooking was so bad that inedible dishes ended up in the trash can. She also blasted music at full volume in the middle of the night, and even ate a cake I had bought from a famous chef's shop, intending to share it with Mom. After leaving our home, the two of them moved into a well-located condo. Daryl continued working as before, and Catherine said she would be taking a part-time job. You'd think that would be the end of our relationship with them, but it's not. I decided to vent all the pent-up anger I had and headed to my in-laws' home. My mother-in-law, Posey, is better than Catherine, but still not someone I'm fond of, often making snide remarks about me. In this family, my father-in-law, Oswald, is probably the most reasonable and decent person. Initially, I didn't mind Posey or Catherine because Daryl and Oswald seemed like decent people, but it turns out I was wrong about Daryl. I went to my in-laws' house without contacting them and told Posey through the intercom, "I've come to say goodbye, we're divorced." Posey reluctantly let me in. I walked in still wearing my hat and opened the door to what I assumed was Posey's room. "What are you doing?" Posey looked displeased. "Oh, I thought this was the custom in this house, given how Catherine behaved." "How rude!" Ignoring her anger, I walked into the room. Oswald wasn't around, and Posey was flustered by my behavior. I sat down arrogantly on the living room sofa and made a request, just like Catherine used to do. "Could you give me a Coke?" "What? We don't have Coke." "Could you go buy some then? I'll be here, so you can just run to the store." "What is this? You came to apologize for the divorce, right? I heard you had an affair, and yet you act like this? Me? Having an affair? I haven't done anything like that. Show me proof before making such claims. Besides, this is how your daughter treated us in our home. Didn't you raise her to act this way? And now you find my behavior rude." Posey turned pale and fell silent. I don't know anything about Catherine's actions. She's never listened to me, no matter how much I scold her. "So you gave up on educating her, and that's why you have such a selfish and self-centered daughter and son." "Daryl is different. He's been quiet and never caused trouble for anyone." "Then why would such a polite person bring his sister into our home without asking, and try to kick my mom out of her room? The reason we divorced is that Daryl told me if I didn't want to live with Catherine, then we should divorce. Where did this affair story come from?" Posey looked confused and just stared at the ground. It seemed pointless to continue the conversation, so I stood up. "Please tell your children not to behave like this in the future. I apologize for my rude behavior today." I said my piece and left. After that incident, my parents-in-law formally came to apologize. I told them, "Please apologize to Mom," and Oswald did so sincerely, even giving us compensation for the trouble. Mom was quite taken aback. I heard that Posey later called Daryl and Catherine to their home and scolded them. While Posey has often been inconsiderate, she's apparently not as bad as Catherine. My reenactment of Catherine's behavior must have made her realize something needed to change. Rumor has it that both parents gave their kids a good talking to. But it seems Daryl and Catherine's troubles didn't end there. I found out when Daryl called me sometime after Mom and I had moved. "Hey, Elisa, where are you?" "Why do I have to tell you?" "Because your house is up for sale." Daryl raised his voice, clearly frustrated. I repeated my question. "So? Why do I need to tell you where I am?" "Oh, that's..." He hesitated, finally grasping the point of my question. "Because I still love you." "What?" "I realized how much I missed you after you left. I regret how I acted. I was just putting on a show in front of Catherine. I really wanted to cherish you and Dina, but I've never been able to stand up to Catherine. No matter how much he claims to have changed, or how much he apologizes, or even professes his love, my heart remains unmoved. There is no forgiving the way he brought Catherine into our home, threatened divorce, and insulted my mom. I am not interested in how you feel. We're divorced. No matter how much you apologize or offer money, I will never remarry you." "Don't say that. I've realized how important you and Dina are to me. I promise it won't happen again. Just give me one more chance." "You're just struggling with someone to do the housework, aren't you?" He groaned, confirming my suspicion. I just said something that came to mind, but it turned out to be true. Moreover, I can't believe that he asked me to get back together. "You're the worst. Remember how you laughed when we talked about divorce? How you and Catherine looked down on Mom and me? Now the tables have turned." His attitude changed. You're getting cocky just because I'm being humble here. Weren't you supposed to be remorseful? Didn't Oswald and Posey educate you properly? Like, don't inconvenience others and apologize when you've done something wrong? It's you who should apologize. I heard you were rude to Mom. You lied and said Catherine did it. Both of us got scolded by Dad. I couldn't help but laugh at his childish remarks. Are you saying you've never been scolded by your dad so you can act this way? How old are you? Some people your age are already raising kids and teaching them the ways of the world. And here you are in your 30s talking like a teenager. You chose this life, didn't you? Stop blaming others and take responsibility. You're making fun of me, aren't you? If you can't understand what I'm saying, there's no point in talking to you. Don't contact me again. I immediately hung up the phone and blocked Daryl's number. After that, I only received notifications of missed calls, but I had no intention of answering them. Apparently, Daryl and Catherine moved into a condo, but neither of them did any housework, so it quickly turned into a hoarding mess. I heard they were even asked to leave by the condo owner due to the bad smell and Catherine's noisy behavior. They hastily hired a cleaning company, and although things improved for a while, their place soon reverted to its original messy state. That's why they reached out to me for help. Moreover, Catherine is a big spender. She used to rely on her boyfriend, but he broke up with her due to her outrageous behavior. I can't say I feel sorry for her. They're both struggling financially because Catherine was counting on Daryl's income and spending recklessly. After settling into my new place, I took a trip with my mom. She seemed down, thinking my divorce was her fault. Taking her to Hawaii lifted her spirits, and she smiled brightly for the first time in a while. As for the future, I'm not making any plans. I might remarry, or I might not. If I do, it will be with someone who has basic manners and values family. Otherwise, I'm fine staying single. I plan to continue working hard and taking good care of my mom.
Suddenly, the relationship between my husband and our daughter took a turn for the worst. That was when my husband's infidelity came to light. In the midst of this worst-case scenario, my husband, John, made an unthinkable decision. I won't be attending Emily's graduation ceremony. On the day of our daughter's graduation, my husband took off on a trip with his mistress. I couldn't forgive him. Prioritizing his mistress over our precious daughter? Unbelievable! My name is Lily. I'm 37 years old. My husband and I have been married for 10 years, but our relationship is a bit complicated. We have a daughter, Emily, who is not biologically related to me. Emily is my husband's daughter from his previous marriage. She was only 5 years old when we got married. Before we got married, while I still prioritized work, John proposed an idea. How about you become a stay-at-home mom once we're married? A stay-at-home mom? I travel a lot for work, right? Emily is still young, and so I've been leaving her with my parents, but after we get married, you'll be her mom, so I'd rather not rely on my parents too much. That makes sense. Your parents are getting older. That's why I want you to become a stay-at-home mom and take care of Emily. I see. Okay, I understand. As per his request, I resigned from the company I've been working for. Upon getting married, I became a full-time mother. It's not that I wasn't anxious about becoming a mother. After all, my husband's previous marriage ended because of his ex-wife's infidelity. I was worried about how young Emily would perceive me. However, despite my worries, Emily's friendly nature allowed us to bond quickly. Honey, let's draw together. Really? I love drawing. After we finish drawing, we can go shopping together. Let's go. I want to help you prepare dinner too. Thank you. That makes me very happy. I've been doing my best to build a genuine mother-daughter relationship. The first time she called me mom, tears came out of happiness. Day by day, as I spent time with my daughter, my love for her grew deeper. Blood ties didn't matter. I saw her as my real daughter, and I continued to pour my love on her. Before I knew it, She was 15 years old, already an 8th grader. Perhaps it was the onset of adolescence, but I had started to feel a slight distance between us. Previously, she would always be home by 6 p.m. at the latest and would let me know if she was going to be late, but recently she's not often home until 8 p.m. That day, too, she arrived home past 9 p.m. with no prior communication. Welcome home. You came home late, didn't you? Dinner is ready. I'm back. Is Dad coming home late again today? Seems like another day of working late. Come on, let's go ahead and have dinner. Okay. Just then, Emily murmured, You know. What's wrong? Well, you see. Yes? Never mind. It's nothing. Upon saying this, Emily went quiet. What just happened? She was definitely about to say something, wasn't she? Why did she stop midway? While I was concerned about her attitude, I knew it was a challenging age for her. I decided not to interrogate her, but to wait for her to talk to me voluntarily. Then, one day, when I got back from shopping, I found my husband at home earlier than usual. Furthermore, he was having a heated argument with Emily. I quickly intervened between the two. John, why are you raising your voice so much? Calm down. Lily, what happened? You've never shouted at Emily like this before. My husband awkwardly looked away and muttered, It's nothing. It can't be nothing. Is it about school choices? If so, why don't the three of us discuss it together? I said it's nothing. You're being too persistent. Just leave it. I'm going to take a shower. Wait a second. He quickly left the living room. Feeling the awkward atmosphere, I couldn't help but ask Emily, what happened? Nothing. Nothing? It's nothing. Emily, please talk to me. Something must have happened for it to escalate to a fight, right? Just leave me alone. It's none of your business. Wait. Despite my calls, Emily retreated to her room and didn't come out for dinner. From that day on, Emily's behavior changed dramatically. She spent a lot of time in her room and barely spoke to me or her father. While I knew I had to do something, I didn't know how to approach the situation. As I waited for things to cool down, I decided to have a conversation about it with my husband. It's about Emily. Don't talk to me about her. What? Wait, what are you saying? It's about that fight from the other day, isn't it? I've decided I'll only be involved with her at the bare minimum as a parent. What? Don't be so irresponsible. Emily must be struggling with something. I don't care. She rebelled against me. What's that supposed to mean? Despite my repeated inquiries, he refused to explain why they had argued. Eventually, my husband made a statement that made me question my own ears. I won't attend Emily's graduation ceremony. What? Wait a minute. A middle school graduation ceremony is a once-in-a-lifetime event? I don't care. I've decided not to go, so you go alone. No way. No matter how much I tried to persuade him, he refused to listen. I tried to invite him multiple times after, but he remained adamant about not going, consistently refusing. It's her graduation ceremony, for goodness sake. I don't want to upset Emily. I have to somehow convince him to attend. As I was waiting for the right moment to bring up the conversation again, something happened. While cleaning my husband's room as usual, I found an envelope wedged in a gap in his bookshelf. When I opened the envelope, I found 2 round-trip tickets for a train to Chicago. Why were there 2 of the same tickets? If it were a business trip, he wouldn't need 2, would he? That's when I realized. The departure date printed on the ticket was the same day as Emily's graduation. I had a bad feeling about this. I immediately hired a private investigator to confirm my suspicions. A few days later, my fears were confirmed. It was revealed that my husband had been having an affair behind my back. The investigator laid out a series of photographic pieces of evidence and calmly explained the findings. Well, it appears your husband is indeed having an affair. The other woman seems to be a junior colleague from his company. I see. I never noticed because he's been working late and traveling a lot for work. I hate to break it to you, but during our investigation period, not once did he work late. every day he was either at the woman's house or out dining with her. I see. It seems he's planning to take a week's trip to Chicago with this woman. At that moment, both trust and affection for my husband vanished into thin air. I couldn't believe it. Not only was he having an affair while having a family, but he was also planning a trip with his mistress on our daughter's graduation day? I absolutely can't forgive this behavior. When I got home, I started looking for a new place to live so I would be ready to leave at any moment. I also made the decision to return to the job I'd once quit. I'll have the capability to thrive in any situation as long as I have a new place to live and a job. That's when I had a sudden realization. That is, none other than the presence of Emily. To be honest, I think of her as my real daughter and I love her from the bottom of my heart. Even if I were to get a divorce, I want to keep custody of her. But would she choose to stay with me, a non-biological mother? Wouldn't it be best for her to be with her father, who she has been with since she was born? Given the recent infidelity of my husband, I had become pessimistic about everything at this time. I had no confidence that she would choose me. At worst, I had to prepare myself for living alone. Since then, I have decided to cherish the time I had left with my daughter. On my days off, I invited her to go shopping, went to cafes together. Even if I get a divorce and we get separated, I'll make sure to hold on to the memories of these days. I engraved the joyful moments with her into my heart. While eating out together, I decided to casually bring up the topic of her graduation ceremony. Your dad said he can't make it to your graduation ceremony. Oh, really? I'm sorry. He seems to be busy with work, but I promise I'll be there. Okay, I'm fine with just you. I don't need anyone else. As expected, Emily's reaction was rather indifferent. Seeing my own daughter like this, I couldn't help but feel indescribable emotions. Graduation day has arrived. When I woke up in the morning, my husband was already gone. I guess he went on a trip with that mistress. Of course, I attended the graduation ceremony alone. As I watched my daughter receive her diploma, tears welled up in my eyes. She was so small when we first met. I don't want to let her go. My feelings were growing stronger, but I kept telling myself, it's time for me to decide, and forcibly suppressed my emotions. After the graduation ceremony ended smoothly, we returned home. Before my husband comes home, I'll tell Emily everything and leave the house. I had decided that, but when it came to it, I couldn't bring myself to start the conversation. As I hesitated for a moment, my daughter spoke up. Hey, Mom, even if we're not biologically related, you're still my mom, right? What? Despite being taken aback by her words, I confidently responded, What are you saying? Of course I am. I'm always going to be your mom. Yeah, I thought so. I'm glad to hear that. The moment I saw her smiling warmly, my heart instantly felt lighter. Now's the time. With that thought, I made up my mind and decided to open up and share everything. Emily, I'm thinking of divorcing your father. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. What? I was surprised at how easily she accepted the idea of divorce. Are you okay with it? The divorce, I mean? It's okay. You found out about his affair, didn't you? Wait, did you? Yeah, Dad's having an affair. How did you? I happened to witness his affair that day. When I confronted him, we ended up in a big fight. That day she was referring to was the day that they had that loud argument some time ago. She had coincidentally spotted her father and his mistress in public and confronted him, which ended up turning into a heated argument. My eyes started to burn, and my vision became blurry. Was she carrying this burden all by herself this entire time? The thought made my chest tighten with unease. Holding back my tears, I looked Emily straight in the eye. You can choose who you want to be with. It's your decision. What are you talking about? I am definitely going with you. Are you sure? Of course. I don't need a dad who cheats when he has a family at home. He's not worth being around. Emily, you're my only family. I tightly embraced her. That's how it was decided that I would take her in. Our actions following this were quick. We somehow managed to complete the move before my husband returned from his trip, carrying our belongings into the new house we'd already contracted. Since I had everything planned ahead, the process ended up being quicker than I expected. 1 week later, seemingly noticing the divorce papers on the desk, my husband called. "Hey, Lily, what the hell is this about these divorce papers?" "They mean exactly what you think. Let's get a divorce." "Are you still mad about me missing the graduation ceremony?" "It was because of work. I had no other choice." I was utterly disgusted with my husband, who even now was still trying to play dumb. "Work, right. What's that supposed to mean? I'm always busy with my business trips. By the way, did you attend the graduation ceremony as planned?" "Yes. Next, it's time for me and Emily to graduate from you." "Huh? What are you?" "Did you have fun? Your trip with your junior colleague? Mary, was it?" What are you talking about?" "Then explain what this is about." Upon sending the evidence photos from the detective via iMessage, my husband became visibly shaken and struggled to find his words. Why would you secretly take photos like this? Are you a stalker? That's disgusting." "Getting involved with women at work is far more disgusting." "What? It's your fault for being unattractive as a woman." "What? You're trying to say it's my fault?" "You've been lazing around all day doing nothing. Is your only accomplishment hiring a detective to gather evidence behind my back? Where am I supposed to find desire for a woman like that?" "Wasn't it you who asked me to be a stay-at-home mom when we got married?" "I didn't expect you to become such an ugly pig. It's my one miscalculation. Ugh, what a mistake." I vented my rage at him without holding back. "By the way, make sure to submit those divorce papers, all right? Oh, and I'll be properly claiming alimony as well as child support, so be prepared for that." Wait a minute. Emily is my child. Are you planning to take her without my permission?" "Yes. Emily made her own decision. She wants to be with me, not you." "No way. I'm the one who shares blood with Emily. There's no way she'd choose a stranger like you." The moment I heard those words, my patience snapped. "Huh? Who's talking? Who decided to go on a trip with a mistress instead of attending his dear daughter's graduation ceremony? You should be embarrassed." "You? How dare you go that far?" "Being married to someone like you is nothing but a dark chapter of my life. Our marriage is over. Emily and I are going to live together, never show up in front of us again." My daughter gently rubs my back, giving me strength after my impassioned outburst. She then snatches the phone to speak her piece to her father. "Hello, Dad?" "Emily, what the hell are you?" "From now on, I'll live with Mom. Don't bother us again." "You? Who do you think you're talking to? I'm your only biological family, you know." Then she coldly retorts, "Family? You betrayed me and Mom, and you call that family? Don't make me laugh. Blood ties mean nothing. I have decided to believe in my mom, who truly loves me. You're the lowest of the low. Having affairs while being married? Disgusting. You're no longer a father in my eyes." With that, she hung up the phone. With a deep sigh of relief, she stretched her body wide and beamed with a smile of pure joy. Seeing her like this somehow lightened my heart, too. With sufficient evidence of his infidelity, I was able to quickly divorce him. Emily strongly wished for me to have her custody, and so I did. Through a lawyer, I demanded compensation from his mistress and also made sure he paid alimony in addition to that. Chan's mistress was outraged at being sued and immediately broke up with him. Moreover, as she spread the story of their breakup at work, his reputation plummeted. News of his affair and abandonment by his daughter quickly spread throughout the company. Apparently, John got dumped by his wife for having an affair with a junior colleague. LOL. Didn't he have a daughter? Man, that's really low. To be abandoned by your own daughter? That's a major oof. LOL. When the company investigated the rumors, his misdeeds came to light one after another. He had been taking his mistress on business trips and inflating his expense claims. He was promptly fired and ordered to pay back all the fraudulent travel expenses. Having lost everything, he moved into a cheap apartment and is apparently living a difficult life. There's nobody to lend him a hand, and he'll probably remain lonely and impoverished in the future as well. In contrast to my ex-husband, I am living a remarkably prosperous life. I was able to return to my old job, and my time with my daughter has been fulfilling. On our days off, we go out together and cook meals, enjoying a genuine parent-child bond every day. Hey, Mom, what about having mac and cheese for dinner today? Sounds good. How about we cook together? We'll need to go shopping too. Oh, and let's stop by the new cafe that just opened up. All right, let's get ready then. I no longer have any worries. I intend to continue walking hand in hand with the daughter who chose me.
Hey, you forgot something! I hurriedly called Ethan as he headed off on an overseas business trip. But no matter how many times I called, there was no answer from Ethan. Then I stumbled upon Ethan's affair. So, the business trip was a lie, huh? Cheating on me like that? I won't forgive this. Oblivious to my vengeful thoughts, Ethan finally called me in high spirits. Just landed at the destination. So, what did I forget? You forgot your passport. What? That was the moment I began to enact my revenge. My name is Natalie. I've been married to Ethan for 4 years. We don't have children and live happily without holding anything back from each other. Ethan works for a regular company and has weekends off. I, on the other hand, work at a beauty salon and work on weekends. So, we rarely have days off together. When was the last time we went out together anyway? Because of my job at the salon, I often hear about honeymoons from brides-to-be. This topic naturally comes up a lot. Today's client was planning to go to Hawaii soon. Hearing this, I felt increasingly eager for the two of us to go on a trip. A vacation sounds good. It's been a while since Ethan and I went on one. When I got home from work, Ethan wasn't back yet. It used to be that I would come home late and Ethan would have dinner ready. But recently, that hasn't been happening. Maybe work is busy. He's been doing a lot of overtime for several months. Ethan finally got home past 11 p.m. Though he should be tired from working late, he seemed in a good mood, so I had no reservations about talking to him. Guess what? My client today is going on a honeymoon to Hawaii. We went to Guam for our honeymoon, but we haven't traveled since, right? Let's plan a vacation. It doesn't have to be abroad. Even somewhere in the country is fine. My mind was already racing with vacation plans. Spending days together for the first time in a while felt exciting, but contrary to my enthusiasm, Ethan didn't seem too keen. I'm gonna be busy with work for a while. Why don't you go alone? Then you don't have to coordinate with my schedule. I was so disappointed by Ethan's response that I lost all enthusiasm for the trip. It's pointless alone. I want to go as a couple. I held back my desire to say so. Whether it's a difference in enthusiasm or what, Ethan had practically zero interest in going on a trip. After seeing Ethan's reluctance, I decided to let it go. For a while, I found myself scrolling through travel sites, still not entirely over it. Should I just go alone, like Ethan suggested? The thought crossed my mind, but I couldn't leave Ethan behind. During these low-spirited days, Ethan suddenly said to me, I have a business trip overseas during the New Year holidays. What? I blurted out, shocked by the sudden news. Ethan looked irritated at my loud reaction. Look, I know you want to travel, Natalie, but this is work, not a vacation. No complaints, okay? I haven't even said anything yet. Annoyed at Ethan's words, I snapped back. I'm just surprised you said overseas business trip. You've never had one before. Besides, aren't most places closed during the New Year holidays? My hard work has been recognized, and that's why I was chosen. The trip is to France. Only New Year's Day is a holiday there. Many businesses are open, as usual. Is that so? When do you leave? I'll head to France before Christmas to prepare, and then start work. Sure enough, after doing some research, France only observes New Year's Day as a holiday. December goes until the 31st, and many businesses resume on January 2nd. So we won't spend the New Year holidays together, huh? The New Year holidays were our only chance to relax together throughout the year. Now, not only do we not get a vacation, but we also won't spend the holidays together. Feeling lonely, an idea popped into my head. How about I come with you? Then we can spend time together. I can go sightseeing while you're working. I thought it was a good idea, awaiting Ethan's reply. However, his next words instantly dashed my hopes. Absolutely not! This is a business trip! Who brings their spouse along? Ethan's irritation was evident as he raised his voice. Without a word, he stormed off to the shower. What's his deal? He doesn't need to be that angry. Even after his shower, Ethan remained in a bad mood. It became awkward to bring up anything about travel or business trips. After that, our conversations dwindled. His cold attitude led me to harbor a growing resentment towards him. Time passed, and by late December, the cold was harsh. Ethan, who was scheduled for his business trip to France, seemed a bit too excited. Sure, it's a business trip, but it's also overseas. I can understand his excitement. But he should put himself in my shoes. I'll be spending Christmas and the New Year holidays alone. His enthusiasm only added to my irritation. Ethan happily pats me on the shoulder, seemingly unbothered by my mood. Hey, I'm going on a business trip starting tomorrow. Take care of the house for me, will ya? Sure, got it. Don't get mad. I promise I'll bring you back some souvenirs. I'm gonna hit the sack now. Got an early morning tomorrow. With that, Ethan quickly heads off to the bedroom. The nerve of him, acting all excited. He'd better bring me a ton of souvenirs. The next day, I make a long list of souvenirs and wave goodbye to Ethan. My phone rings right after I finished up the household chores. The message is from my brother, Alexander. Ethan's on a business trip, huh? Why not come back to Mom and Dad's for the holidays? Alexander is still living at our parents' place and has a rather sporadic work schedule. It bothers our parents that he can't hold down a stable job, but I've always loved Alexander. He's the first person I go to when I'm in a bind. So I start considering his idea of going back to our parents' house. I didn't have any plans anyway, and spending New Year's there could be a nice change. Should I start looking at flight schedules? I sit down on the sofa and start checking flight times on my phone. Just then, something catches the corner of my eye, and I let out a startled, "What?" Ethan's passport is sitting right there on the table. I immediately call Ethan, but no matter how many times I try, I can't get through. You forgot something! I send several messages, but no reply. I have no choice but to go to the airport myself. Panicked, I call Alexander for help. Alexander, Ethan forgot his passport. Can you go ahead to the airport and make sure he doesn't leave? I'm on my way too. Roger that. I send Alexander the details of Ethan's flight to France and rush to catch a train. I keep trying to contact Ethan during the ride, but to no avail. Then a message from Alexander arrives, and its contents leave me stunned. I just got on a train and Ethan is here. What's going on? Attached to Alexander's message is a photo. When I open the file, there is Ethan, holding hands with an unfamiliar woman on the train. In an instant, I understood everything, and my body shakes with fury. So the business trip was a lie. I won't forgive him. He will regret betraying me. I immediately contact Alexander. Alexander, forget what I said earlier. Instead, follow Ethan and take lots of pictures of him and that woman. Roger that. Alexander must have realized what was going on. He didn't question me further and immediately started tailing Ethan. Later, I met up with Alexander at the airport. According to Alexander's phone, there are multiple photos of Ethan looking cozy with another woman. Contrary to what Ethan said, Alexander's investigation revealed they aren't headed to France, but New Orleans. It's a high-end hotel in New Orleans with great reviews. It turns out Alexander secretly overheard Ethan's conversation on the train. Ethan was loudly discussing details while looking at a travel magazine, so Alexander quickly figured out the destination. At that moment, Alexander asked me, "So, what are we going to do? This is clearly a cheating trip, right?" "We're going in." "What?" "We're going to crash their little getaway. You think I'm going to let them enjoy their trip?" For a second, Alexander looked surprised, but then quickly smiled. Alright, if that's the plan, let's go to New Orleans right now. So, we decided to follow Ethan to New Orleans. After a 3-hour flight, we arrived in New Orleans. We then hurried to the high-end hotel, led by Alexander. The phone rang, just as we arrived at the hotel. Could he have realized we were following him? I quickly answered the call, but it turned out to be a needless worry. Hey, Natalie! Sorry, I was on a flight and couldn't check my messages. Just landed in France. What's this about something I forgot? Ethan sounded carefree over the phone. He was lying, and he didn't know I was close by. I bluntly told him the truth. You forgot your passport. What? I immediately went on the attack. How did you get to France when I have your passport right here? Did you enter the country illegally? You think I want to be with a criminal? Ethan started to fumble. I realized I forgot the passport, so I had a new one made at the airport. My anger grows at Ethan making excuses. Unable to contain my emotions, I yell into my phone. Are you kidding me? I've never heard of a passport getting issued instantly at the airport. Who do you take me for? Calm down, Natalie. It was a joke. I actually have 2 passports. What? 2 passports? Quit your nonsense. Ethan went silent, but my fury wouldn't cease. You thought that lie would work? I know everything. You're in New Orleans right now, aren't you? I'm on a business trip to France. You're still lying? I told you I know everything. I know you're in New Orleans on a cheating trip. What? With that, the call suddenly ended. He must have hung up, realizing things looked bad. But it was too late. A few minutes later, a message came from Alexander. They're here, in the front lobby. If Ethan knew I was aware of his affair, he would surely scramble to change his accommodation. That's why we waited for him in the hotel lobby. Upon seeing Alexander and me, Ethan looked extremely shocked. Right behind him was the woman from the photos, the same woman he was having an affair with. I marched right up to Ethan and stood my ground. Ethan's face was a picture of surprise. Natalie, this isn't what it looks like. My business trip was suddenly relocated to New Orleans. I'm not doing anything shady, I swear. Who in their right mind would believe you now? How do you explain the woman standing behind you? This girl is, a junior colleague. She's on this business trip with me. I was utterly disappointed to hear Ethan still making excuses, even in a situation like this. I opened the messages Alexander had sent me and held them up in front of Ethan. So what about this? How do you explain holding hands if you're just colleagues on a trip? When did you get that? I glared at Ethan. It's pointless to argue now. I have evidence, so you can't run away from this. I heard Ethan gulp right in front of me. Then I turned my attention to the woman he was with. What are your plans with my Ethan? You know he's a married man, right? Suddenly, the woman became visibly shaken and started blaming Ethan. Wait a minute, Ethan! You said your wife would never find out. That's why I agreed to be with you. No, Ellie, that's not the point right now. It absolutely is the point. Your wife has been giving me terrible glares. It's as if I'm the bad one here. For the record, lady, Ethan is the one who came on to me. Ellie, as she was called, continued to insist. Ethan is entirely to blame, without offering any apologies. The thought that Ethan had prioritized Ellie over me was unbearable. Overwhelmed with anger, I momentarily forgot we were in a public lobby and raised my voice. Don't give me that. It's not about who's wrong. Both of you are to blame. Ethan, you may have initiated it, but you, Ellie, went along with it knowing he was married. I'll make both of you regret this. Ethan's face turns pale at my words. Ellie, on the other hand, tries to act strong all of a sudden. Regret? What can a cheated-on woman do? What? You see, Ethan chose me. Natalie, no matter what happens to you, you'll be the one left alone. Ethan and I are going to be together soon. There's no way I'm gonna be miserable. Right, Ethan? You said you were leaving Natalie soon. Ellie says, staring back at Ethan. Ethan then looks back and forth between Ellie and me, then starts speaking, seemingly having made up his mind. I won't marry you. The only one I love is Natalie. What? I just found you convenient to hang out with because Natalie and I have been missing each other. Today is the end of this relationship. I'm going back to Natalie. Upon hearing Ethan's words, Ellie's face fills with despair. Ignoring her, Ethan starts to apologize to me. Natalie, I'm really sorry. My judgment was just off. I won't cheat ever again. I've just been feeling lonely because we've been missing each other. So? From now on, I'll only think about you. If you want, we can go on a trip right now. Just please forgive me. He thinks an apology will fix everything? His reasoning makes me even angrier. A trip now? Are you kidding me? Why didn't you go on a trip with me in the first place? You prioritized Ellie over me. I will never forgive either of you. I'm divorcing Ethan, and in the divorce court, I'll demand more than the standard settlement. What? Why? We've been together for 4 years. Can't you cut me some slack? You've been together with me for 4 years, yet you betrayed me. About the settlement money. Are you going to hire a lawyer? You don't need to. We can start over. There's no need to waste money. At this point, my anger with Ethan goes beyond infuriation to sheer disbelief. That's when Alexander, who had been observing us, starts to speak. Alrighty then, bro. I know a good lawyer. Took care of him back in the day. He'll probably give you a good rate. Nice one, Alexander. Alexander and I squeezed Ellie's contact info out of her and left the two stunned individuals behind. Later, I hired the lawyer Alexander recommended. Just like he said, I was able to claim more than the usual amount of compensation from Ethan and his affair partner. My divorce from Ethan went smoothly, and I returned to single life. As for Ethan, he and Ellie both ended up quitting their jobs after Ellie exposed the affair. Now Ellie is suing, claiming she was deceived by Ethan. And Ethan, in turn, is claiming that Ellie's exposure of the affair is defamation. Both are caught up in a complicated situation, seemingly draining their pockets by the day. But to be honest, I couldn't care less. They're experiencing the consequences of their actions. Serves them right. As for my brother, Alexander, he's decided to take a job at a detective agency, thanks to this whole ordeal. Being a detective is my true calling. I'm going to make it last this time. He's quite ambitious. Time will tell how that works out. For now, I hope to live a life where I won't have to rely on Alexander's detective skills ever again.
Whoa! What happened here? Upon entering my house, I find furniture toppled over and belongings strewn about. Someone had ransacked the place. I have to call the police. I quickly reach out to the authorities and also call my part-time workplace to inform them that I won't be able to make it for my evening shift. I notify my in-laws to come over, and just to be safe, I send a WhatsApp message to my husband, John, who's due back tomorrow after a long absence. Mary, are you all right? What's going on?
Is everything okay?
My in-laws arrive just as the police do. During the police investigation, it turns out that no high-value items or banking cards are missing. Above all, I'm relieved I didn't walk in on the intruder. What's missing seems to be daily necessities, clothing, food, and children's items. Wait a minute. Haven't I seen this scene before? From my past experiences, I have a hunch about who could be responsible for this. My name is Mary, a 27-year-old housewife. My husband John is 30 and currently on a work assignment away from home. We have a preschool-aged son and have been married for 5 years. We were hoping for a second child, but the timing clashed with my husband's work assignment, which has already lasted 2 years. Although he tries to come home twice a month, there are busy periods when he can't make it. I last saw him 2 months ago. To stay connected with our son, he had set up a network camera at home, but he's only used it once due to his busy schedule. I had been hesitant to consult him about one issue, not wanting to distract him from work. It concerns my sister-in-law. Just as I was about to speed through the household chores after dropping off our child at preschool, the problem person shows up. Hey there. Oh, sister-in-law, hi. What brings you here today? For the past 3 months, sister-in-law has been regularly dropping by our home unannounced, just making herself at home. Sister-in-law is 34 and the mother of 4, part of a big family. The family has kids ranging from infants to elementary schoolers. 2 of their preschoolers even go to the same preschool as my child. My sister-in-law, or SIL for short, is a large woman with a blunt personality, for better or worse. Whether it's shopping or dining out, she always wears sweats. When she showed up at preschool events in her standard sweatshirt and sweatpants, even I was shocked. Sure, she's known for her casual attire, but she's also known for picking fights, so much so that I'd rather not cross paths with her at preschool lest people find out we're related. She has a habit of taking things from our home on a daily basis. Taking these cookies, okay? You took some yesterday. We can't keep giving you things. What? You're imposing me? It's John's money anyway. You have no right to complain. She asserts that since I'm a stay-at-home mom living on John's money, she can intimidate me. After all, it's a mother's job to support the kids. You have just one while I have many. It's only fair you help me out. We initially chatted because our kids were close in age and I thought we might get along. Now she just says unreasonable things like this. Sister-in-law works part-time at a lottery ticket store in the evenings. She usually visits when she knows I'll be home, like after dropping the kids at preschool. When the kids come home from preschool, or even during dinner preparations and mealtime, she'd just barge in and rummage through the rooms. Not only that, she leaves everything a mess and, of course, never bothers to clean it up. We receive $600 a month for living expenses from John, separate from rent and utilities. It used to be more than enough, and I was even saving money. Although John had always told me to feel free to spend money on what I like, I have been saving it for a rainy day. However, since sister-in-law started coming over, my monthly savings have dwindled to $100, and I've even dipped into the negative over the past 3 months. Because of sister-in-law, the money John gives me vanishes each month, and I've been covering the shortfall using the savings I had before we were married. Realizing this can't go on, I finally gathered the courage to tell sister-in-law that this needs to stop. Sister-in-law, it's getting tough for us too. Please pay for the items you take. Why? Just get more money from John. We have a lot of kids and need it. You're costing us $200 a month just on household items. What? You're charging your own family? It was clear reason would not get through to her. I feared this situation could ruin our family, so I told John I'd like to work part-time. I didn't want to worry John, so I just said I wanted to boost our savings. The real challenge was what to do with our child, so I decided to consult his parents. Mother-in-law, I'm considering working part-time. Why? Aren't you getting money from John? Actually, sister-in-law takes a lot of household items, so we're running low on money. What? Really? But taking a few things isn't a big deal. No, it's just a few things. All right, I'll talk to her about it, so don't get so worked up. It seemed like mother-in-law was still oblivious to sister-in-law's wrongdoings, believing her daughter wouldn't do such a thing. From what John told me before, mother-in-law has never been mad at sister-in-law and spoils her rotten. I wasn't expecting much to begin with, but this was a tough nut to crack. My frustration with sister-in-law was escalating, and I couldn't hold back my anger any longer. Talking directly to her wasn't working, so I decided to hatch a plan. Soon after, I started a part-time job. I would work mornings, pick up my son from preschool, drop him off at John's parents' house, then work my part-time job until evening. This new routine helped me avoid sister-in-law, but it seemed to trigger a barrage of angry messages from her. Where are you? Where are the house keys? I know you're there. Open up. When will you be done? The frequency of her messages increased, showing her annoyance with my constant absence. Bring some tissues around in the evening. What time in the evening? Before my part-time job, so let's say 5 p.m. Oh, sorry, I'm working my part-time job until 6 p.m. You're deliberately avoiding me. No, I'm just working longer hours because we're short on money. So it's my fault we're short on money. Exchanging these lines, even sister-in-law's pettiness started to feel amusing on WhatsApp. Life was much calmer without meeting sister-in-law every day. Unlike my peaceful state, sister-in-law was restless. One time, we went out to eat with our parents-in-law and sister-in-law's family. She was giving me icy stares, but I didn't care and just enjoyed my meal. Mary, no part-time work today, huh? I had planned this dinner with father-in-law and mother-in-law for a while. Sister-in-law turned her face away, clearly irritated. In some ways, I owe my sister-in-law for my newfound assertiveness to dealing with someone as dense as her. Later, we had tea at John's parents' house and all was quiet on sister-in-law's end. We then headed home. I was hoping that sister-in-law would finally give up, but things took an unexpected turn. A month later, after dropping my son off at preschool and at John's parents', I went home to grab something I forgot. I was in a hurry because I didn't have much time before my part-time job started. What the? I came home to find furniture overturned and belongings scattered. I've got to call the police. I hurriedly called the police and informed my part-time job that I'd be taking the day off. I also informed my parents-in-law and asked them to come over and send a precautionary message to John, who was coming home tomorrow.
Mary, are you all right? What happened? Is everything okay?
I began talking to a private investigator. As this happened, the police arrive. During the investigation, we find that no high-value items or bank cards are missing. Above all, I'm relieved I didn't confront the intruder. What's missing are daily necessities, clothing, food, and stuff for the kids. Wait a minute, haven't I seen this situation before? Mother-in-law, I don't mean to point fingers, but isn't it possible that sister-in-law did this?
My daughter? No way, she would never do something like this.
Who else would ignore valuable stuff and take only daily items? It has to be sister-in-law.
Mary, just because sister-in-law takes things from your home doesn't mean she would do something like this, mother-in-law insists.
Although it may be natural for a mother to trust her daughter, mother-in-law refuses to call sister-in-law to the scene. Finally, father-in-law, who had been silent all along, speaks up.
The police are here. She should prove her innocence by coming.
As father-in-law says that,
well, you have a point.
Mother-in-law concedes, unable to go against father-in-law, and promptly calls sister-in-law. What's up? Sister-in-law enters with her child, freezes for a moment when she sees the police, but I don't miss it. Oh, why are the police here? Apparently, our house got ransacked and some things are missing. What got taken? Daily items, clothes, stuff like that. So, did they figure out who did it? No, not yet. Oh, okay then. Upon hearing that the culprit behind the home invasion is still unknown, sister-in-law visibly relaxes. Suspicious of sister-in-law's reaction, father-in-law starts to question her.
Be honest, if you're caught on a neighbor's camera, you're the one who will be in trouble.
It's not me. As this dialogue unfolds, I get a call from John.
Mary, are you all right? Any injuries?
Yeah, I'm fine, and our son was at your parents' house.
Good. Any leads on who did it?
Actually, I hadn't talked about this yet, but I explained everything to John.
Why didn't you tell me earlier? I would have warned her.
I'm sorry. I didn't want to worry you.
Have you checked the camera?
Camera?
Remember? I installed a network camera so I could talk to our son. Is it still there?
Oh, right. I had forgotten about it, but thanks to leaving it plugged in, it seemed to be working. After telling John that the camera was active, he checked past footage on his mobile phone. I end my call with John and head back to the living room where everyone is. We know who did it. What? How? John had set up a camera so he could talk to our son while he's away on business. Uh-huh. And the footage shows this person. I show the mobile phone to the police and my parents-in-law and their sister-in-law, rummaging through the house, then leaving with bags full of stuff. How did you get into the house, sister-in-law? I press her for an answer and sister-in-law falls silent.
Tell the truth.
Father-in-law interrogates sister-in-law with a stern look. Well, the thing is, sister-in-law slowly starts talking. I noted the lock code while relaxing at my parents' house. I then asked someone I know to make a duplicate key. While father-in-law looks at sister-in-law in disbelief, mother-in-law keeps her head down in silence. Mother-in-law, are you okay? As mother-in-law's shoulders tremble, I wonder if she's crying because she feels betrayed by her daughter.
You foolish daughter!
Mother-in-law screams, her face turning red and filled with an unprecedented rage. Mom, I just took a little, that's all. What do you mean, a little? I've been giving you around $200 every month because you said it was tough with the kids. If you were stealing supplies from Mary's house, what happened to that money? Apparently, mother-in-law had been giving sister-in-law about $200 every month. I can't even look people in the eye knowing my daughter ransacked a house like a thief. It's all my fault for spoiling you. Come clean about everything. Sister-in-law, who had never been yelled at by mother-in-law before, shrinks back, her eyes welling with tears. It seems she spent the money she received from mother-in-law for daily necessities and on her own clothes and bags, but something doesn't add up. We all find it strange that sister-in-law, who always wears sweatshirts and sweatpants, claims to be buying clothes for herself. So where are these clothes and bags you supposedly bought, sister-in-law? They're at home. Then sell them, turn it into some money, and pay back what you've taken so far. This is complicated. Sister-in-law, who's bad at giving up, was desperately trying to come up with an excuse. Then her older child casually let something slip. The clothes aren't mom's anymore, so they're not at home, right? What? Turns out she had been buying men's clothing and bags. Did you buy them as a gift for Dad? No, for a young man who isn't Dad. Shockingly, it's revealed that sister-in-law has been financially supporting another man. Mother-in-law, upon hearing this, is even more furious and starts talking about disowning her. Even the police seem uncomfortable in this escalating environment. So what will happen with this situation? I think it would be better to settle this privately since it's a family matter. Yeah, what should we do? Father-in-law, seemingly stuck, turns to me. At that point, sister-in-law frantically latches onto me. Mary, you wouldn't actually press charges, would you? Think about how sad it would be for the kids if their mom got arrested. Don't try to use the kids to escape responsibility. Apologize to Mary right now. Mother-in-law, her eyes fierce, starts berating sister-in-law again. Mary, I'm really sorry for what I've done. Please, please, please forgive me. Sister-in-law almost cries as she kneels and clings to my feet. The kids are watching with concerned faces, and honestly, it feels wrong to show them adults squabbling like this. Fine, I won't press charges. Oh, thank you, Mary. Sister-in-law quickly changes her expression. But there are conditions. The condition I give is that sister-in-law must pay back the $900 she took over the last 3 months by working part-time and giving us $100 each month. I can't pay $900. I have 4 kids. Didn't you say supporting your kids is a mother's duty? So it's only fair to return the money you've taken from your brother's children who are suffering because of you. Well, that's... Sister-in-law seemed frightened by my words. If you have time and money to spend on another man, then work to pay us back. The monthly payments are even a compromise compared to what you've used. I quickly corner sister-in-law, but my words don't seem to reach her. But still, enough! Enough! Be grateful you're not getting sued and accept the conditions. Mother-in-law raises her voice again as sister-in-law's indecisive attitude. I understand. After hearing from the victim, I think accepting these terms would be the best course of action, says the police officer. Sister-in-law, with her head hung low, reluctantly agrees. Even though the kids will inevitably find out and I do feel sorry for them, I can't muster any sympathy for sister-in-law. Exploiting her brother's family to save on living expenses while lavishing money and attention on another man is something I'll never understand. The next day, when John came back, she ended up getting scolded even more. Sister-in-law was in tears, apologizing profusely, but John was adamant about not forgiving any inconvenience caused to myself or our child. I think the future relationship between the siblings hinges on sister-in-law's actions. Above all, sister-in-law's greatest challenge lies ahead. What will she say to her husband who's coming back from a business trip next week? We managed to arrange for the kids to stay with John's parents during the discussion on that day, so they wouldn't witness sister-in-law's disgraceful state. As soon as sister-in-law's husband saw her, she broke down crying and deeply apologized. Her husband was confused until father-in-law and mother-in-law filled him in, after which he was furious. Feeling lonely, she had found comfort in a young man. She insisted she had done nothing more than financially support him. She said she'd repay the money to her brother and his family, but from the husband's perspective, it was understandably infuriating to come home from work to this mess. Though he blamed himself, the thought of the kids made his heart ache. From then on, my sister-in-law was sued for damages by her husband. Just selling lottery tickets part-time wasn't enough, forcing her to also work nights. Under such dire circumstances, her previous aggressive demeanor faded away as if she were a changed person. Once so quick-tempered and argumentative, especially around the preschool, she's now so unobtrusive. She's hardly noticeable. As for our family, John returned home after his work assignment was over, and our son was absolutely thrilled, enjoying each day. I continued with my part-time job thinking it best to save as much money as possible, but I recently fell ill and had to visit the hospital. According to the diagnosis, we were delighted to learn we're expecting our second child. John was thrilled, and we later safely welcomed a baby girl. Now, as a family of 4, we cherish our happiness.
After enduring a long and painful labor, I finally gave birth to our child. Looking forward to holding my much-anticipated baby, I noticed the midwives conferring with troubled expressions. Could something be wrong with the baby? I couldn't believe my ears when one of the midwives approached and said, "The baby has dark skin. It seems there might be non-white ancestry." My name is Christine. I'm 25 years old. Alden, my husband, and I are approaching our 3rd wedding anniversary. Having lost my parents in an accident a few years ago, Alden is the only family I have left. But things between us haven't been great lately. Lately, Alden often comes home late, claiming he's busy with work and barely spends time at home during weekends. Our moments together started decreasing, and he hardly spoke to me anymore. I was deeply bothered by Alden's distant behavior. "Hey, did I do something wrong? If I upset you, please tell me," I said one day to Alden. But Alden just brushed it off. "No, it's nothing. I'm just tired from work," avoiding eye contact. "But you've been so distant. If I'm at fault, I want to fix it," I pressed. Alden sighed. "You know, being constantly questioned like this is really annoying." I was devastated hearing him say that. From then on, I couldn't bring myself to talk about his behavior, and the days just went by. However, a few weeks later, Alden suddenly suggested going on a trip. "How about a weekend getaway to a national park? I could probably take time off work." Having been distant for so long, Alden's proposal was a pleasant surprise. "I'd love to. Why the sudden change of heart?" "Sometimes I just want to spend time with you," he admitted. Tears welled up in my eyes. I was secretly hoping that this trip might bring us closer again. "This hotel has a great bar on the top floor. Want to stay here?" Alden said as he showed me the hotel's website. It featured a photo of a cozy-looking bar. "It looks great. Let's go there." So we decided on a weekend getaway to the national park. On the day of the trip, after a day of sightseeing, we checked into the hotel. After a luxurious dinner, we headed to the bar on the top floor. It offered a beautiful panoramic view. "It's even better than the photos. Thanks for bringing me here," I told Alden, who smiled warmly in response. "Let's make the most of tonight. How about a drink, Christine?" Taking Alden's suggestion, I ordered a fruity cocktail. Feeling the happiness of sharing this moment with Alden made my heart full. I thought maybe things between us could be like before. As I sipped my drink, an overwhelming drowsiness suddenly overtook me. My head became cloudy and my vision blurred. "Christine, are you okay? Did the drink hit you?" Alden, noticing my state, looked concerned. "It's strange. I barely drank, but I'm so sleepy." "You're probably tired from the day. I'll carry you to the room, and you can rest," Alden offered, and I nodded in agreement. It's odd. I've always held my liquor well. I soon fell into a deep sleep. When I woke up the next morning, Alden was already up. "Good morning, Christine. Did you sleep well?" "Morning. I don't remember much from last night. I didn't do anything weird, did I?" As I yawned, Alden grinned. "Don't remember? You slept soundly, that's for sure." Alden seemed unusually cheerful, which puzzled me a bit. But maybe he just needed this refreshing break. Good for him. With that thought, I didn't find anything odd about his behavior. Filled with happiness, we concluded our trip. 2 months after our vacation, Alden's work kept him away, but our conversations increased noticeably. On weekends, we'd sometimes go out together. The concerns about Alden's attitude were behind me. However, despite the reduced stress, I started feeling off. A persistent low-grade fever and daily nausea concerned me. Did I catch a cold? I decided to see a doctor. There, I was met with surprising news.
Congratulations, you're pregnant.
Stunned, I just stared with my mouth agape. Wait, pregnant? I never expected such joyous news following the mending of our relationship. Having always wanted a child, I was elated. When Alden returned from work, I eagerly shared the news with him. Alden, I'm pregnant. With a big smile on my face, I shared the news. Alden, taken aback for a moment, quickly responded with a smile.
Really? That's great. We better take good care of yourself.
However, I felt something was off in Alden's reaction. His words seemed forced, almost rehearsed.
I think I'll have more free time soon. I'll be there to support you.
My happiness overshadowed my doubts, and they faded. Alden started coming home early, as he promised. He began helping with chores, and was particularly considerate about my health.
Are you feeling okay, Christine?
I'm totally fine, especially with you helping out so much. Thank you. Day by day, I felt content with Alden's unwavering support. Eventually, we learned we were expecting a boy. My excitement made me browse baby boy clothes and toys online almost daily. Even though it might have been a little early, the joy of expecting a child with a loved one was overwhelming. 9 months passed, then the day came. With the start of my contractions, Alden, my parents-in-law, and I rushed to the hospital. Enduring what felt like an eternity of pain, I held on. After what must have been hours, I suddenly felt a decrease in the pain. And then, I heard the baby's cry. He's healthy and he's here. Relief washed over me and I felt my strength leave my body. With my eyes closed, I waited for the midwife to say, "You have a healthy baby boy." But no words came from her. Instead, I could hear the midwives in the delivery room whispering, sounding puzzled. Was there something wrong with the baby? My face turned pale. But the next words from the midwife were beyond anything I could have imagined.
Excuse me for asking, but your husband is Caucasian, right?
Caught off guard by the unexpected question, I replied, "Yes, my husband is Caucasian and there's no history of any foreign ancestry in our families." The midwife hesitated. Is there something wrong with the baby?" As I asked hesitantly, the midwife finally spoke.
The baby has dark skin. I believe there might be non-Caucasian blood.
Dark skin? I was in shock, trying to comprehend what she was saying. But when the midwife showed me my child, it was undeniable. The baby's skin was dark, clearly indicating mixed race ancestry. How was this possible? I was completely bewildered. Suddenly, angry shouts from outside the room broke the silence.
What did you do, Christine? Did you have an affair? Answer me.
It seemed the midwife had shared the situation with my father-in-law, and he was now banging on the delivery room door.
Please, she just gave birth. Calm down.
The midwife tried to control the situation. After his voice faded, Alden entered the room, his face expressionless. "Alden, it's not what you think. I swear I didn't do anything." As I pleaded, Alden looked at me and coldly said,
"So, you had an affair. But you got lonely while I was working. We're getting a divorce, and I'll make sure to claim damages."
Alden looked at me with a cold expression, but to my astonishment, a chilling smile appeared on his face. Alden was laughing. "Alden?" The moment I called his name, his expression returned to its former coldness.
Just leave everything to the lawyers, and never show your face to me again.
With that, Alden left the delivery room. Why? Why is this happening? I've never had an affair. I have no memories of any indiscretions, not even in a drunken state. I never even dined out alone when Alden was away for work. Felt like my mind was a whirlwind. Why? Why is this happening? All I could do was clutch my head in overwhelming confusion. Subsequent DNA testing confirmed that the baby wasn't Alden's. Upon my discharge from the hospital, Alden immediately presented me with divorce papers.
Once I gather evidence of your affair, expect to pay for it,
he said coldly. After that, he left our home. The house was under Alden's name, which meant I'd soon need to leave too. How did it come to this? This can't be right. Desperate for answers, I thoroughly researched every possible explanation for my baby's skin color. Could it be a genetic mutation? Maybe a distant relative from a different race? But no matter what I discovered, the DNA results remained a significant barrier. Every day was a struggle, unable to prove my innocence. As I raised my baby, whose father remained unknown, I spent my days crying. To make matters worse, my in-laws barged into my house daily, hurling insults and accusations at me.
You ungrateful wretch, after all the sympathy and support we gave you after your parents' death, you repay us with this.
I didn't do anything. Why doesn't anyone believe me? No one believed a word I said, and my spirit was nearing its breaking point. 2 weeks had passed since Alden left our home. There was no contact from him, even though he'd said he would gather evidence before demanding compensation, and for good reason. I hadn't committed any infidelity, so there would be no evidence to find. Lately, I had begun to harbor doubts about Alden. The smile he showed in the delivery room just didn't sit right with me. Could Alden be behind all this? No, that's impossible, right? If Alden had plotted something, I had no clue why or how he would. I shook my head, trying to shake off the absurd thoughts. Maybe some fresh air would help clear my mind. Come to think of it, I haven't really been out much lately. I've been living in fear, worried that the news had spread in the neighborhood, or that I might run into my in-laws. If I stayed cooped up any longer, I'd just sink deeper into despair. So I decided to take my baby out in his stroller. The sky was a clear blue, and the fresh air felt revitalizing. It felt like ages since I last stepped outside. If I knew it would be this refreshing, I would have done this earlier. Lost in those thoughts, I took a walk in a quiet park. In the stroller, my baby was sound asleep. You did nothing wrong. I'm sorry you got tangled in our issues, I whispered, gently caressing my baby's head. Having completed a lap around the park and feeling thirsty, I decided to step into a nearby cafe. I settled into a seat that I was shown to and ordered an orange juice. As I took a moment to breathe, a familiar voice from the seat directly behind me reached my ears.
So fabricating evidence isn't as easy as you thought. I want to claim as much compensation as possible, so just wait a bit longer. If we register our marriage too soon, they'll discover our affair.
I was paralyzed with shock, feeling as if time had stopped. The voice unmistakably belonged to Alden. On instinct, I quickly activated the voice recorder on my cell phone. Then a woman's voice followed Alden's.
Considering the potential legal consequences, it's a risky game, having her drugged and assaulted by another man during a trip. That's clearly criminal. Alden, you do think of wild schemes. And to potentially get compensation without our affair being discovered? Brilliant. Yup, waving a bunch of money in front of a guy got me an immediate yes. Getting the sleeping pills was the challenging part.
What? He had me assaulted by another man? My heart pounded deafeningly. Looking back at the trip Alden and I took, everything began to make sense. My husband, who hadn't come home for days, suddenly suggested a trip. Even though I can hold my liquor well, after having just one drink, I was overwhelmed by an intense drowsiness. All the pieces fit, and a nauseating realization hit me. Alden had deceived me, tricking me into carrying another man's child, and played the role of a good husband right up to the birth. And he didn't even care about the fate of the child about to be born. Barely suppressing my urge to confront him there and then, I clenched my fists. Alden, I will never forgive you. Boiling with rage, I clenched my fists tightly. I waited for the two of them to leave the cafe and managed to snap a photo of them. With that, I headed straight to the police station. Can you please listen to this? The overwhelmed me didn't know where to start, my voice shaking. Although initially surprised, the policeman promptly escorted me further inside. After listening to the entire recording, a compassionate policewoman said, "Must have been tough, being accused of something you didn't remember and no one believing you. It's okay now. Leave this to us." Tears welled up in my eyes. Thank you so much. Days later, the police, armed with the evidence, issued arrest warrants for Alden and the man he had involved. Policemen apparently stormed the residence where Alden was living with his mistress. Immediately after, Alden called me.
Hey, Christine, what the hell is going on? There are policemen at our house. It's you who had an affair, right? Just because you don't want to pay compensation, you pull a stunt like this?
Alden ranted over the phone. From behind Alden, I could hear a voice desperately trying to calm him down, saying,
Put your phone down.
It was probably one of the policemen. Alden, probably shaking off the officer, continued shouting, with sounds of a struggle reaching me. Who played dirty here? Your actions were clearly criminal, and you didn't think about the life being brought into this due to your selfish desires? You're just despicable. In a fiery retort, I shot back, and Alden continued to shout, his voice almost breaking. Feeling almost on the brink of insanity, his voice became so garbled I could hardly understand what he was saying. Then a loud crash echoed, and suddenly the other end of the phone line went silent. Curious, I strained my ears to listen. After a brief pause, I heard a policeman's voice.
What the heck are you doing? This is obstruction of justice. No, I didn't mean to.
Alden's voice trembled.
You've got blood on your head. Get him to the hospital now. Hey, you, settle down.
The policeman yelled at Alden. It seemed that Alden had shoved the policeman, causing an injury.
No, I haven't laid a finger on Christine. I didn't do anything. I'm innocent, right?
Alden sounded desperate, but the policeman swiftly shut him down.
You tried to deceive the victim and claim compensation, right? That's a clear fraud. We're arresting you on charges of fraud. No, I didn't mean to commit fraud. It's true, believe me. You have the right to remain silent. Do you waive that right?
The officer recited, ignoring Alden's pleas.
Wait, I only wanted a smooth divorce. I never imagined it would come to this.
Alden's voice was pitifully shaky.
Come on, Christine, help me out, please. I apologize, okay? Deep down, I truly love you. Let's start over, and then we can surely...
I felt something snap within me as Alden continued. I never want to have anything to do with you again. Reflect on your actions behind bars.
Hey, Christine, wait, Christine!
I hung up without waiting for his response. In the corner of my room, my baby was peacefully asleep. Following the incident, the biological father of the child and Alden were quickly arrested. At the trial, Alden faced multiple charges, including fraud, drugging me with sleeping pills, and orchestrating the entire scheme. It seems he's destined to spend the rest of his life behind bars. On top of that, Alden was ordered to pay me a lump sum as compensation, and his wages from prison work would be garnished. In a twist, the other woman was also arrested. The voice recording I provided had captured her voice, and the testimony from the arrested man made it clear she had assisted Alden in his crimes. And so, all three who deceived me faced legal consequences, bringing closure to the incident. The child born as a result of this event was decided to be given up for adoption through the Child Welfare Agency. It seems the arrested man's home country has strict religious views on pregnancy and abortion. When he eventually leaves prison and returns to his home country, he'll likely face severe repercussions. I was reassured that the baby would be raised in a distant place, far removed from all this drama. On my end, I decided to return to my late parents' hometown. After Alden's arrest, my in-laws deeply apologized and proposed we live together, but I wanted nothing to do with them anymore. Surrounded by familiar faces and places, I yearned to heal my emotional wounds. Now, enveloped by childhood friends and distant relatives I hadn't seen in years, I'm enjoying peaceful days. I hope someday to meet someone who truly loves me and build a warm family together.
My name is Emma. I'm a 33-year-old homemaker. 1 year has passed since I got married, but we still don't have any children. My husband Tony loves kids, and from the beginning of our marriage, he was excited about starting a family. However, storks aren't exactly punctual, you know. Impatient, Tony suggested I get a checkup at the hospital, so I visited an obstetrician. After many tests, I was relieved to hear the doctor say there's nothing wrong, but right when I let my guard down, Tony suddenly declared, "Sorry, I want a divorce." Why? There's nothing wrong with me. I really want kids soon, Emma. If we keep going like this, I'm too worried about when we'll have them. I was at a loss for words. We've only been married for a year. I've proven to have the ability to get pregnant. Can't you wait a bit longer? But Emma, you're already 33. While we're waiting, you'll turn into an old lady. Actually, you might already be an old lady, ha. I want to give my child a young and beautiful mother. What does he mean by give? Does this man think of his wife as some sort of object? His words stabbed me in the heart. But I love Tony. I tried my best to persuade him not to divorce, but I couldn't change his mind and we separated after just a year. I was so depressed I couldn't think about anything, but as time passed, I began to see Tony's true colors. He didn't love me as much as I thought. Perhaps he only saw me as a tool to have a baby. The moment that thought turned into conviction was 2 years later. I heard from my friend Catherine that Tony was having a shotgun wedding with his new girlfriend. Catherine has been my best friend since college and coincidentally worked at the same company as Tony, so she was mutual friends between me and Tony. Having bright and friendly characteristics, Catherine was popular with everyone. Relying on that, Tony seemed to confide in her about anything. His current wife, it seems they've been involved since he was still married to you. Wait, does that mean he cheated on me? Exactly, blaming you for not being able to have a child while he was fooling around with another woman. Catherine put down her coffee cup roughly and looked at me. Emma, don't let that guy get you down. Find someone new. Encouraged, I finally put my feelings in order. And 1 year later, I got remarried. After the divorce, I worked part-time at a call center and met Ray, who was 2 years older, and we started dating. About 6 months into our relationship, he proposed to me. I'm so happy, but, well... You don't want to marry me? No, it's not like that. I might have difficulty getting pregnant. What do you mean? When I explained in detail the circumstances of my divorce with my ex-husband, Ray laughed it off, saying, Oh, is that all? The doctor said there was no problem with you, Emma, right? Besides, having a baby is something we face and deal with together as a couple. Stop thinking of it as just your responsibility. Hearing those words, I couldn't help but cry. And what if we can't have kids? We'll just walk through life together, just the two of us. The warmth of Ray, as he said that and held me, I will never forget for the rest of my life. I was truly happy in my remarriage. Ray, my husband, was great with housework and he took care of himself without any help. It's probably because I've been single for a long time, but thanks to that, I was able to meet you, Emma. I'm grateful to God. He said, blushing and looking adorable. He was a great cook too, treating me to authentic Italian dishes. In comparison, Tony, my ex-husband, wouldn't even take the trash out, so I was surprised to see a man being so self-sufficient. I guess I was truly fulfilled. One day, half a year after we got married, I found out I was pregnant. At a routine checkup at the OBGYN, I was told, congratulations! I couldn't believe it. I rushed home to tell Ray, who had just come back from work. Are you serious? Way to go, Emma! Suddenly, he lifted me up and I was startled. Hey, cut it out, Ray! Sorry, I don't want to startle the baby. He gently put me down and then started to caress my belly. I'm glad you're happy. Of course I am, it's our baby! Looking at Ray, whose eyes were welling up with tears, I felt my own eyes starting to water. It's all thanks to you, Ray. Being with you, I felt so calm and safe. I think that's why I could conceive. You have to take care of yourself, okay? Absolutely no overexertion. Yes, I understand. The next 10 months were like a dream. I barely had any morning sickness, and during my second trimester, Ray and I enjoyed shopping for baby items. Then, one day before my due date, my phone rang. It was a call from Tony, my ex-husband. After some hesitation, I answered the call. Hello? Hey, Emma, it's me. Hi, long time no see. I heard from Catherine. Is it true you're pregnant? Yes, it's true. Why? I thought you couldn't get pregnant. His insensitive comment left me speechless. Maybe I should have been a bit more patient. Tony joked, which wasn't funny at all. I didn't need your patience. How's things with your new wife? Huh? No, what are you talking about? He played dumb. Well, it doesn't matter to me anyway. Bye. I ended the call with an exasperated voice. Wondering about the purpose of his call, I told Ray about it when he came back from work. I didn't divorce him out of hatred, but his sudden call has upset me. Maybe he had a fight with his current wife? Maybe he wanted you to listen to his grumbles. I don't think so. He made an impolite comment saying he should have been a bit more patient. Maybe he wanted to congratulate you on your pregnancy, Emma. There's no way, Ray. You're such a soft touch. Ray, chuckling, was truly a kind-hearted guy. Seeing Ray like that, my annoyance seemed ridiculous, and the conversation naturally shifted to the topic of our baby. The baby is a girl. The doctor let us know at our last checkup. We spent that day discussing her name again. Ray's eyes were shining with joy. I can't wait to see her. She'll be here soon. Exactly a week later, our baby was born. Hoping she would grow as warm as the jewel, we named her Amber. When I held Amber, Ray said to me through his tears, thank you, over and over again. I've been home since being discharged, fighting the good fight of motherhood. Of course Ray helps too, but there's so much we don't know, and we've made a lot of mistakes. It would be nice to have dependable grandparents around right now. There's nothing we can do, both our parents live far away. It might have been a good idea for you, Emma, to go back to your parents. It's okay. No matter how hard it gets, I want to be here with you and Amber. Even though I'm exhausted from many sleepless nights, seeing Amber's face soothes me. 3 months have passed and we've been mixing formula with breast milk. We finally started to sleep a little easier. One day, Catherine came to visit with a baby gift. Wow, so cute! Looking at Amber asleep in her crib, Catherine let out a soft cheer. Congratulations, Emma. Thank you, I'm so glad you could come. I meant to come earlier, I'm sorry. Don't be silly, I know you're busy with work, Catherine. I'm just glad you could make it. I served the cake and coffee Catherine had brought as a gift, and we sat across from each other. We chatted about Amber, and by the time I had brewed a second cup of coffee, Catherine started with, I wasn't sure if I should bring this up, given how happy you are, Emma, but can I talk to you? What's up? Why so serious? Well, it's about Tony. You know he had a kid right away with his new wife, so he thought the fertility issues were because of you. Well, that's probably what he thought. But once he found out you were pregnant, he changed his mind. He started to wonder if it was his body that was the problem. What a thing to bring up now, but I was curious about Tony's health. Tony had a child, didn't he? What's the problem? That idiot! He's been blaming his wife saying, "It's not my kid. Whose seed did you plant?" Catherine was aghast. What? That's a stretch even for him. I thought he was crazy when he came to me with it. So Tony was genuinely worried? It seems so. But apparently Catherine did comfort him. And guess what he said then? Once a man chaser, always a man chaser. I can't trust anyone. Look who's talking. He's one to talk. It's unbelievable. Both Catherine and I were flabbergasted. His wife was furious. They had a big fight and she went back to her parents' house. Well, of course she did. What should I do? He came to me whining, but I yelled back at him. How should I know? I imagined Tony getting yelled at by Catherine and couldn't help laughing again. Anyway, Tony's place is a real mess, I'm worried about Emma saying something unnecessary. Don't you think it's fine? He doesn't concern me anymore. Well, yes, but he's not himself these days. Looking at the genuinely worried Catherine, I thought this woman is truly kind. I'll block Tony's calls. Sounds good. Also warn him not to contact me. At that moment, I heard the crying of Amber, who had just woken up from her nap. I got up and picked up Amber. Can I hold her too? Catherine stretched out both arms. While the two of us were calming Amber down, Tony completely slipped from my mind. A month passed like this, and I was busy with childcare. There was no contact from Tony. However, Tony's wife showed up with her child all of a sudden. She said she got the address from her mother-in-law. She had informed her in-laws about the whereabouts just in case. Tony's wife, who introduced herself as Sophia, was a cute woman in her 20s with large, impressive eyes. Her almost 2-year-old son, John, was the spitting image of Sophia. We sat opposite each other on the sofa. John was completely absorbed in playing with my daughter, who was lying down. I'm sorry for showing up unannounced. I just had to apologize to you, Emma. Sophia began. Apologize? Yes, I was dating Tony without knowing he was already married. I'm really sorry for everything that happened. I was honestly perplexed by her apology. The truth is, an apology now just complicates things. So you came all this way to apologize? No, we've decided to get a divorce. What? With Tony? Yes, it doesn't concern you, Emma, but I really wanted to hear this, so I forced my way in. Sophia began to talk as if a dam had burst. Her story was full of surprises. I was harshly accused of having a child that wasn't his. To prove him wrong, I took a DNA test to establish Tony's paternity. So, hasn't the issue been resolved? It's not that simple. Despite his relentless insults calling me dirty and claiming he only married me because I could have kids, the moment the results came in, he flipped, saying, "Oh, good, good. Now I can be sure about having a second child. Can you believe that?" Sophia's anger was unstoppable. Yes, I may be the other woman, but it was Tony who deceived me. Sophia hit the table hard. Hey, calm down. You're startling the kids. I'm sorry. Looking as if she had come back to herself, Sophia bowed her head. So, you've decided to get a divorce? Yes, he only sees his wife as a tool for producing children. It doesn't matter who he's with. I understand that feeling all too well, because I had felt the same way. If asked whether I hate Sophia sitting in front of me, I might say yes, but at least her child is not to blame. Watching the children play happily, I couldn't help but feel sorry for them. Fortunately, Tony's parents are on my side. They're so disgusted with his stupidity that they banned him from their home. His parents are such nice people. I know, right? How could such a loser be born from such wonderful parents? We ended up laughing as we looked at each other. Tony's moaning about custody, but of course I won't give it up. If he causes more trouble, my in-laws said they'll bring in a lawyer. So, what are you going to do now, Sophia?
I'm going back to my hometown to look for a job. Alright, hang in there. Thank you. I thought you, Emma, would understand my feelings, so I came to you. Also, I'm worried that the jerk might pick a fight with you, Emma, so be careful. Any animosity towards Sophia was gone due to our strange bond. We both really picked the wrong guys, didn't we? No way! You, Emma, found a wonderful husband after all. You still have plenty of chances ahead, Sophia. With a broad smile on her face, Sophia left. I might never see her again, but I wish her the best from the bottom of my heart. I heard from Catherine that Tony and Sophia's divorce was official a month later. I've gotten a new smartphone and Tony hasn't contacted me. However, it seems that Tony keeps telling people that I was the cause of his divorce. What a loser. He still says that if Emma had just gotten pregnant quickly, there wouldn't have been any problem. Catherine is raging over the phone. I was so pissed off I gave him a piece of my mind in front of everyone. What did you do? I decided to transfer him to a subsidiary. Catherine is Tony's boss. The competent woman had climbed her way up to being department head in Tony's division. Isn't that misuse of authority? An enemy of women is an enemy of society. Hearing Catherine laughing, I murmured, poor Tony. There's no sin in wanting a child. However, a man who only sees women as childbearing tools doesn't deserve to live in this world. Poor Tony, given a hard time by his wife and boss, still seems to despise women as ever. Even at his new place, he's reportedly still messing with women and getting a taste of his own medicine. Some people never learn unless they die. Maybe I should ask the devil that he should GTH.